seeing me, not the Zoom screen. Is there a way to? I hate looking at myself doing these.
Maybe there's no one there.
Oh, okay.
I'd selfie you.
There we go.
Oh, until there's another video.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's all right. Thanks for trying.
You want me to put a piece of paper over your face?
Okay, it's 1:30. Yeah. Are we ready to roll? Okay. I'll unmute myself and record. Is the applicant going to appear?
I didn't hear word from
Record to the cloud or on the computer?
Computer.
Okay.
Recording in progress.
Okay. Excuse me. Called order this hearing of WLD, or excuse me, what is today's date? July 10th, 2024, in the matter of WLD 2024-025, Island Aire Sewer Extension. My name's Joe Turner. I'm the city's hearings examiner. I'll start with some brief announcements and a summary of the process that will follow. It's bizarre doing this to a basically empty room. Start by saying not a city employee. I'm licensed as an attorney, trained as a planner, serve under contract to the city council. My role as the hearings examiner is to conduct public hearings and make decisions about certain land use matters in the city of Woodland. In making those decisions, I'm required to apply the city's existing laws. I'm not a policymaker. I don't have the authority to vary from or change the laws. If you think that the laws need to be changed, you can work with city council and planning commission to do that. But state law requires that this application be judged based on the laws in effect when the application was filed. As a hearings examiner, I'm to provide an unbiased decision maker. I believe I am unbiased with regard to this application. I haven't had any pre-hearing contact with any of the parties regarding the substance of the application, and I don't have any interest in the subject property or any of the surrounding properties. But anyone has the right to challenge my impartiality, to argue that I'm biased in one way or another. They can do that when it's their opportunity to testify. Procedure will follow. I'll start by asking staff to summarize their staff report, copies of which are available on the city's website. If the applicant appears and wants to testify, they may do so. Then if anybody else appears and wants to say anything about the application, they may do so. Once everyone's had an initial opportunity to testify, I'll give staff and the applicant alone the opportunity to respond. If the response includes any new evidence, I'll give everyone a chance to respond to the new evidence. Otherwise, I'll close the public portion of the hearing and announce what I'm going to do. Generally, I will issue a written decision within about 2 weeks after the close of the record. I'll send my decision to the city. The city will send it to parties of record. So anybody who testifies orally or in writing before the close of the record will be sure and receive a copy of my decision. There's nobody, well, just in case, if anybody wants to testify, when you do so, please begin by stating your name and your full mailing address. Please spell your last name so I get it right, and if you represent someone else, please say so. Since this is a Zoom meeting, if anybody appears, you can indicate that you'd like to testify by clicking on the raise your hand icon. We'll call for testimony from there. And that concludes my hearing, my introduction. Yes. Ms. Garcia DeBoard, when you want to start us out.
Yeah, I'm Maylene Garcia DeBoard. I'm the Associate Planner for the City of Woodland, and I will be going over the proposal for the Island Aire Sewer Project. It's a shoreline substantial development permit. The proposal involves extending the city's sewer main down Island Aire and then making connections to the existing mobile homes that are there. There are existing septic systems that will be decommissioned, including one that has failed. This is kind of an aerial photo of the site. So that purple arrow is pointing to kind of the rough area that the sewer main will be extended to. It has an address of 296 Island Aire, and its zoning is low-density residential, LDR 6, and its shoreline environmental designation is shoreline residential. That's where it is inside city limits. It's that red circle. You can see that it's in that, you can kind of see that it's in that yellow shaded area for low-density residential, and it's right there on Horseshoe Lake. Within shoreline permits, we also have to review general zoning code regulations. So this code section 17.16 is talking about the low density residential, and 020 goes over permitted uses, which minor utility facilities are a permitted use. And then these are a couple kind of general exemptions to the project. The project only needs one land use permit. It's that shoreline substantial development permit. There's no associated site plan review because the installation or replacement of underground utilities is exempt from site plan review permits. The project is also exempt from SEPA requirements, so there's no SEPA associated with this project. That's the WAC number. It says that all stormwater, water, and sewer facilities, lines, equipment, hookups, or appurtenances, including utilizing or relating lines 12 inches or less in diameter, which is true for the project. This is an image of the site plan. In some later slides, I'll highlight some important details in relation to the shoreline. But you can see in the middle there is Island Aire Drive. That's where they're doing the extension. And then there's an outline going to the mobile homes there where they're making the individual connections to the homes. So some regulations that apply from our shoreline master program. First is we have to make sure that the use is permitted. Utilities are permitted in the shoreline residential environmental designation. The site has a 25-foot buffer. It also has a 10-foot setback after that buffer, and the proposal is it's outside both of those. So here's kind of a rough idea. That first line in blue is the ordinary high water mark. 25 feet out from that is a green line representing the end of the shoreline buffer. The orange line represents the end of the 10-foot setback after the buffer. And then that highlighted yellow portion represents the work that's being completed. So you can see it's well outside of any buffers or setbacks for the shoreline. That last red line represents the end of the shoreline jurisdiction. It's only a 200-foot wide jurisdiction, so everything past that red line is not being reviewed under the scope of this permit. The applicants have a separate permit pending with Public Works for the actual water line project overall. This is only for the parts of the project that are within the shoreline. So some other regulations that apply from the Shoreline Master Program are that there is a no net loss of ecological functions. The project, like I said, it's outside buffers, it's outside setbacks. The main line that's being replaced is currently underneath an existing paved street, so there's really no loss of ecological functions there. We've also conditioned the project so that the parts where they are tearing up yard, that be replaced to the original conditions before, so any plants that are removed should be replaced. Archaeological resources are something that are considered in the Shoreline Master Program. We've also conditioned the recommendation with a standard that requires applicants to get an inadvertent discovery plan, which complies with the archaeological resources section of the SMP. There's also the section on vegetation conservation, but like I said, most of the work is happening under paved impervious surface and no vegetation will be removed there, and they'll be required to replace any vegetation that they remove from the yards. There's also a section about water, which is super applicable to this project because it talks about how when there's existing septic systems, they should be replaced, and that's really the point of this project, so it definitely complies with that. And then the last one was specific use regulations. So there are specific use regulations that outline kind of standards that projects need to meet when they're for residential purposes. This one is a utility, which is kind of an accessory to the residential use, and we found that it complied with the small amount of regulations there that were applicable. This is an image of the site, so you can see that paved street there is where the water main will go. The first
Water main or
picture,
sewer line?
oh, I'm sorry, sewer line. That first picture there is when you drive up. There's a park just on the right. And then when you drive down a little further, you can start seeing the mobile homes there. So that street is where the project will go. And then off to the right side is where, within the shoreline jurisdiction, they'll start making individual connections to the sewer line.
So in these pictures, the Horseshoe Lake's to the right?
Yep.
Okay. I had reversed in my head. Thanks.
So staff recommends approval with conditions because the proposal meets both WMC and also standards in the SMP, which is part of WMC. And within those conditions of approval, there are a couple in there just to make sure that they comply with some of the SMP standards, like the vegetation conservation and the archaeological resources. And that's all I really had if you have any questions.
Can you pull up your slide with this, the shape plan with the shoreline
Yeah.
line? I'm just curious. The homes that they're connecting are the ones between the road to the north there, between the road and the lake? is it?
Yeah.
Okay. That's
It's
what
not showing my mouse on there.
And just out of curiosity, for my own sake, why isn't it going further west? Aren't there mobile homes that way, or are septic systems that way? Is that a future plan?
That I'm not sure. I think
Okay.
that would be reviewed more under the public works
Yeah.
permit, which they obviously have to get before this
Yeah.
one. But this one's really just looking at is what they're doing allowed and not really
Sure.
why they're doing
Yeah,
it.
I didn't think it affected the criteria in any way. It was my own curiosity.
Yeah, no, I don't know the answer to that question either.
Does anybody else want to say anything about this application? Anybody online want to? There is nobody online except, city. There's nobody else in the audience. The applicant's not here. Nothing further from staff, I assume? Okay.
No.
With that, I will approve the application subject to the conditions in the staff report, as it clearly meets all the approval criteria. And that concludes our hearing. Thank you. Wish they were all that easy.